At a costume ball in Paris, the most powerful woman in fashion asked her greatest rival to dance. Then, smiling, she steered her straight into a bank of lit candles. The rival's dress went up in flames and the guests had to put her out with a soda siphon. The woman who lit the fire was Coco Chanel. The woman burning was Elsa Schiaparelli, and Chanel did it on purpose. Paris, the 1930s, two women ruled couture from the same square, the Place Vendôme, their salons almost within sight of each other. Gabrielle Coco Chanel believes a great dress should vanish. Pure line, no fuss, so the world sees the woman, not the clothes. Elsa Schiaparelli believes the exact opposite. A dress should shock, provoke, and stop the room. They're about to spend a decade trying to destroy each other. Chanel's austerity was forged in poverty. Her mother died when she was 12 and her father left her at a convent orphanage in Aubazine, a place of stone corridors, black-robed nuns and white linen. She would lie about her childhood for the rest of her life. But the palette she built an empire on, severe black, monastic white, no ornament, is the palette of that orphanage. She started by making hats, then dresses in jersey, a cheap stretchy knit that men wore as underwear. Fashionable women were still laced into corsets and boned gowns. Chanel cut all of it away, soft jersey, dropped waists, deep pockets, even trousers. She gave women clothes they could actually move in, and she made comfort look expensive. By the 1920s, her name was a brand. Then came the bottle that made her rich. In 1921, she launched a perfume built from dozens of ingredients and a heavy dose of synthetics, so it smelled like nothing in nature. Her perfumer numbered the samples and she chose the fifth. She called it Chanel No. 5, poured it into a plain apothecary bottle, while everyone else sold flowers and frills. And it became the most famous perfume on earth. In 1926, she published a short black dress in American Vogue. The magazine called it Chanel's Ford, a uniform it said that all women of taste would wear, like Henry Ford's Model T. A dress designed to be identical, ordinary, almost invisible. That was the whole idea. Chanel wanted every woman to disappear into a crowd that looked effortlessly, expensively the same. While Chanel taught women to hide, a Roman aristocrat taught them to be seen. Elsa Schiaparelli had no training at all. In 1927, she designed a black sweater knitted with a white bow that wasn't really there. A trompe-l'œil trick. A flat pattern your eye read as a real ribbon. Vogue photographed it. American buyers ordered it by the hundreds, and overnight the outsider had a fashion house. Schiaparelli moved into number 21 Place Vendôme, a few doors from Chanel, and lived by a creed of her own. Dress designing, she said, is to me not a profession but an art. She thought clothes should be witty, strange, alive. To Chanel, that wasn't fashion at all. It was a costume party pretending to be couture. The two salons faced the same square, and the war between them was on. Then Schiaparelli did something no couturier had ever done. She invited the artists into the atelier. She worked with Jean Cocteau, with the surrealists around Man Ray, and above all with Salvador Dalí, the most notorious painter alive. Together, designer and painter turned the human body into a canvas for jokes, dreams, and beautiful nightmares. Chanel was horrified. Their first bombshell was the Lobster Dress, a clean white silk gown with a single enormous lobster, painted by Dalí, sprawled across the skirt. In 1937, the most talked about woman in the world, Wallis Simpson, about to marry the king who gave up his throne for her, wore it in Vogue. Chanel would never let a shellfish near a client. Schiaparelli put one on a future duchess. Next, she put a shoe on your head. The shoe hat, a woman's high heel turned upside down and worn as a hat, born from a photograph of Dalí with a slipper balanced on his own scalp. Then came a suit with pockets shaped like a chest of drawers, so a woman's body opened up like furniture. Fashion editors gasped. Chanel called the whole thing ridiculous. In 1938, she staged the Circus Collection, and it went darker. The skeleton dress, a black gown with a spine and ribs pushed up out of the fabric, so a living woman wore her own bones on the outside. The tears dress, a pale gown printed with rips of torn flesh, again designed by Dalí. This was couture as a horror film, and the richest women in Paris lined up to buy it. Then she declared war with a colour. A hot, loud electric magenta, she named shocking pink and stamped across everything she made. She poured her new perfume into a bottle shaped like a woman's naked torso, modelled, people whispered, on the curves of the actress Mae West, and called the scent, simply, shocking. Chanel No. 5 hid inside a plain glass rectangle. Schiaparelli sold desire in the shape of a body. They were now fighting over the exact same women, the richest, most photographed clients in Europe. Daisy Fellows, the singer sewing machine heiress, and Wallis Simpson herself, drifted between the two houses wearing Chanel one season and Schiaparelli the next. Every duchess who crossed the square was a defection. Chanel had built the temple of good taste. Schiaparelli kept stealing its worshippers. Chanel refused to even say her rival's name. In private, she called Schiaparelli only that Italian artist who makes clothes, with artist as the insult, because to Chanel, a dressmaker who thought she was an artist had forgotten her job. Schiaparelli hit back in her own memoirs, sketching Chanel as a dreary little bourgeoise with the soul of a shopgirl. Neither could stand what the other stood for. Which brings us back to the fire. Schiaparelli told the story herself, years later in her autobiography, so treat it as the version she wanted remembered. At a masked ball, Chanel, who could outsell her but never outimagine her, asked her to dance, then waltzed her deliberately backward into a candelabra. The tool caught, the flames climbed, and the guests emptied a soda siphon over the second most famous designer in Paris. Chanel walked away without a word. Then history did what neither woman could. In 1939, war came and Chanel shut her couture house down. She laid off nearly 4,000 seamstresses and kept only the boutique that sold No. 5. She said it was no time for fashion. Some believed her. Others noticed who she chose to spend the war with. Chanel spent the occupation living in the Hotel Ritz, the social heart of German Paris, in an affair with a Nazi intelligence officer named Hans Günther von Dinklager. In 1943, she let herself be used in a secret scheme, codenamed Operation Modellhut, to carry a peace feeler to her old acquaintance Winston Churchill. It went nowhere, but the richest woman in French fashion had spent the war on the wrong side of the door. Schiaparelli made the opposite choice. She refused to design under the occupation, left her house in the hands of others, and sailed for New York, where she spent the war lecturing and volunteering, while her Paris salons slowly withered without her. The surrealist ran toward the light. The minimalist stayed in the dark hotel. When Paris was liberated, Chanel was arrested and questioned about the German officer. She was released within hours. Rumour said an old friend in London had pulled a string, but France had not forgiven her. She packed up No. 5 and vanished into exile in Switzerland. For most of a decade, the name Chanel meant only a bottle of perfume. Everyone assumed she was finished. She wasn't. In February 1954, at 70 years old, Coco Chanel walked back onto the runway with a new collection. The French press savaged it, old-fashioned, a ghost from before the war. Then American women saw the soft tweed suit with its braided trim and gold chains and bought every copy. The Chanel suit became the uniform of the 1960s. She had lost the critics and won the world. That same year, 1954, Schiaparelli closed her doors for good. Her wild, witty artist's fashion had never recovered from the war. The house went bankrupt, and she retired to write her memoirs. In the very year Chanel rose from the dead, the woman who had out-imagined her at every turn quietly went out of business. Shocking Pink went dark. So, who won the feud? In their own lifetimes, the invisible woman crushed the artist. Chanel died in 1971 in her suite at the Ritz, at the head of an empire. Schiaparelli died 2 years later, her name almost forgotten. And the fire at the ball. Chanel never denied it and never explained it. It stands as exactly what the feud was about. She could not outdream Schiaparelli, so she simply set her alight. Except the story kept going. In 2019, the house of Schiaparelli came roaring back to life. It dressed Lady Gaga for a presidential inauguration and turned the red carpet into a parade of surreal gold body parts and that same electric, shocking pink. Her once ridiculous ideas now rule high fashion. The minimalist won the century. The surrealist may be winning the ones after it. Two women, one square, one unforgettable grudge, fought with scissors, perfume, lobsters, and at least one open flame. If you want the next feud from the archive, subscribe.